What's up, dude? Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, hello, my name is Carly Gifford, and on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays I post sit-down videos talking about honestly whatever I want. Lately though, it's been a lot of TikTok drama, which to me is insanely fun because it's drama that doesn't affect your life if you hear about it. Like, it has no effect on my life or honestly your life, so it's amazing. That's my favorite kind of drama, stuff that I'm not actually involved in. I used to do some true crime videos, which was always super interesting to me. I really liked telling stories like that and whatnot. And then once I started doing TikTok drama, my channel started growing more, so I kind of followed that a little bit. But today I have a crazy story for you, and this is something that's going on in North Dakota, my home state, right now. So I thought this would be very, very interesting to tell you all about. So let's get into it. Okay, so disclaimer, I'm not going to give any opinions in this video, any at all, because one, it's local, and two, I don't want to end up sued. So that's why. And I'm also going to be reading a lot off of my computer because that way I can be as factual as I possibly can be. So just a couple of disclaimers for you, but now we'll jump into it. So Raymond Ray, and for this video I'm going to be referring to him as Ray, Holmberg was born December 10th, 1944. He went to Climax High School in Climax, Minnesota. In 1973, he married Carrie Louise Hackett of Grand Forks, North Dakota. Now, Grand Forks is legit right along the border between North Dakota and Minnesota. So there's actually what's known as East Grand, and that's on the Minnesota side, but then West Grand, like Grand Forks, that's on the North Dakota side. So it's legit like a town that goes across the border. As of 2013, Ray had 2 kids with his wife and 5 grandchildren. He is a former educator and school counselor. In 1976, Ray was elected to the North Dakota Senate. While in office, he was on the Senate's Appropriations Committee, which writes budgets and approves budgets, and he was on the Legislative Management Panel. From 2013 to 2022, Ray spent more money on travel than any other legislator. He spent $125,810. It was reported on April 20th, 2022 that Ray was resigning from his position as chairman of the Legislative Management Committee. It was after he was under fire for some texts that he was exchanging with a man who was in jail on charges related to CP. So, I don't want this video to get flagged or anything. Kitty corn. Later, it came out that Ray had exchanged more than 70 texts with that man. Before his resignation, Ray announced that he was going to resign after his term was up in November because of health issues. So he was going to resign anyways. He had said before all this came out that he was going to. And he, at the time, had said that it was because of his cognitive abilities that was why he wanted to resign. In November, federal agents searched Ray's house in the morning. Ray was, in fact, present for the search. Now, this is a quote. "Homeland Security was the ones who obtained the warrant from my understanding, and they ran with all that. We were there just as a support role for HSI. It was more of a courtesy on their part to even have us be there. We were just there as a local representative." Lieutenant Andrew Stein said this quote. One of the Grand Forks police detectives found a couple CDRs and DVD-Rs in a bedroom nightstand. At the time, the reason for the search hadn't been reported on. In October 2023, court documents claimed that from 2011 to 2016, Ray traveled to the Czech Republic in Prague to partake in sexual activity with minors. It was also claimed that he knowingly obtained child sex abuse materials. The trips to the Czech Republic were through a program called Global Bridges, which is a nonprofit that puts together trips for various groups like political leaders. According to Global Bridges website, the mission of Global Bridges is to create and mobilize global networks of healthcare professionals and organizations dedicated to advancing evidence-based diagnosis and treatment and advocating for effective health policy. Since Ray was the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, he would approve his own travel expenses. There are also documents that show Ray went to Germany and China with the Global Bridges program. Since this case with Ray came up, it led to obtaining emails and texts from a former North Dakota Attorney General, Wayne Stenjum. So Wayne passed away 2 years ago while in office, and after which his executive assistant, Liz Brocker, immediately asked the IT staff to delete Wayne's entire email account. I don't know if this is something that's necessarily standard or if she was just kind of looking out for him, like not necessarily that there ever was anything illegal or suspicious that he was doing. I mean, there's no evidence of that at all. So, but maybe she was just like had his back and was like, yeah, I don't want, hackers to get in or any sensitive information to get out to people that shouldn't have it. That could have been legit all she was doing. There were no criminal charges for deleting the emails, like getting rid of stuff like that. That's not really something that's like illegal unless you're knowingly getting rid of evidence. And like I said, as of right now, there's absolutely zero evidence pointing in that direction. For 2 years, the emails couldn't be recovered until recently the new software that was used to unlock his phone automatically copied and saved the phone's data. Attorney General Drew Wrigley said, "We have a mirror image, a digital file of everything in that phone as of the time it was accessed with this law enforcement technology," which is, insane that they could do that, but it's really cool. Wayne used his personal phone to access his state email, which I don't feel like that's super strange. Okay, I said I wasn't going to give opinions, but I don't feel like that's super strange because if you have to get, pressing emails and stuff, wouldn't you kind of want that to go to your personal phone that's always on you? Personally, I would, but the state had a federal warrant to look through Wayne's phone, but of course a warrant doesn't mean that the individual is under any sort of investigation. Wayne's family asked for help from the Bureau of Criminal Investigation to unlock his phone because he probably had photos and stuff on there that they wanted to get as well. But Wayne and Ray were close associates, so I think that's kind of why they want to see what was said in those texts and emails maybe. But they're looking at anybody who was a close associate of Ray, because this is, a very serious criminal charge that he's facing. Of course, they're going to want to look down every avenue and make sure that they get anyone that's involved in this to give them information so that way they can make as accurate of a case as they possibly can. I hope that makes sense. June of this year, Ray did plead guilty to federal charges of traveling overseas to have sex with minors. The maximum sentence for this charge is 30 years in prison, but as of today, Ray is 80 years old. Court documents state United States attorneys agreed to recommend a lesser sentence due to Holmberg's genuine acceptance of responsibility. I do this to let you know it's a direct quote. The U.S. will also dismiss a second charge of possessing child sex abuse materials, according to KFYRTV.com. Documents state that Ray has waived his rights to appeal and he has to register as a sex offender. Prosecutors will recommend the low end of the sentencing guideline and move to dismiss Ray's other charge, receipt and attempted receipt of child sexual abuse material, according to the plea agreement. Under the plea agreement, he would need to register again as a sex offender. The maximum penalty would be 30 years in prison with a $250,000 fine and a lifetime supervised release, according to the document, which, that's a lot. So the inmate that Ray was conversing who had CP charges, his name is Nicholas Morgan DeRoser, 35 years old. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. That's not a very common one. During a police search of his home, Nicholas told the police that the senator would give him a ride to meet the state Consumer Protection Division. The ride was from Grand Forks to Bismarck, which is roughly 4 hours. Of course, we don't know what they talked about during this car ride. Later in the day, Ray went to a Legislative Energy Development and Transmission Committee meeting, according to the committee meeting minutes. Nicholas was involved in a federal case where he was accused of sharing child pee and bringing 2 kids from Minneapolis, St. Paul area, the Twin Cities, to Grand Forks, which is roughly a 3-hour drive, with plans of sexually abusing them. There was also another police report that said Nicholas reported a theft at Ray's house on Ray's behalf, but Ray did not end up pressing any charges. The investigation into Nicholas began in 2019 when a tip was sent from Google to law enforcement that child porn was accessed on a computer for Team Lawn and Landscaping, which is Nicholas's business. Now, this came shortly before a police report came in that Nicholas accidentally ran over and killed his business partner, Robert Coons, who was 61, with a skid steer in 2019. Robert passed away in a street in front of Ray's home in Grand Forks. The incident happened around 3 a.m. February 9th, 2019. According to police, Robert was riding in the bucket of the skid steer, fell out, and Nicholas ran him over, although he did attempt to stop, and then he backed up over him. So I don't know if he partially ran over him and then was like panicked and was like, oh my god, and then backed up instead of fully running him over. Nicholas said that the two were clearing snow and putting the skid steer away, and that it wasn't the first time Robert rode in the bucket. They had done it hundreds of times before. I've ridden in the skid steer bucket. Honestly, what you should do if you're gonna do that, which not that I'm recommending it, is you should tilt the bucket back back. So it's kind of like cradling something in your hand like that. So you have a lip, like the bucket's lip, the bottom of it kind of holds you in the bucket. Nicholas said that he tried to call 911, but his phone had died because it was cold. It was reported that it was negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit at that time, which is not uncommon in North Dakota. It gets very cold here. And yes, if your phone is outside in that kind of temperature, it will die because of the cold temperatures. After he charged his phone up, Nicholas immediately called 911. He did get cited for driving with a suspended license, but the charge was dismissed after he pled guilty to a similar charge in Minnesota, according to the court documents. Shortly after was when law enforcement got their first hit for a potential CP in Nicholas's federal case, according to a transcript from his motion to suppress evidence hearing, and that was denied. In the end, it was deemed an accident since there was no foul play suspected. Evidence in the case had been purged from the system since the statute of limitations had expired, and in this case, it was 3 years. And then several days later was when the burglary into Robert's home happened, and Nicholas reported it for him. Some computers were stolen out of the home. Nicholas lives in East Grand Forks and was the reporting party on the fatal accident and also the burglary into Robert's home. It was all super weird. Grand Forks Police Detective Jennifer Freeman wrote in an email to Homeland Security Agent Mike Arrell. Months later, the computers were found in Nicholas's home. Nicholas told the police that there were 2 burglaries, according to court doc. It was in fact confirmed that there were 2 burglaries about 5 days apart. The first one was called in by Robert's sister. In both of the break-ins, the intruder went through a basement window. Nicholas reported that 2 business laptops were stolen in the second break-in, according to the report, and then those 2 were found in his home. Nicholas said he was working at the house until 11:30 p.m. on February 18th, 2019. So it was suggested that the break-in happened between then and about 3 a.m. the following morning. Luckily, a neighbor's camera caught 2 men walking around Robert's house and one crawling through the basement window. However, the 2 suspects were never identified as of yet. After Robert was killed, a check was signed in his name, and it was suspected that Nicholas had actually signed it. So Robert had already passed away, and then a check in his name was written and signed. It's also worth mentioning that as of 2019, Team Lawn, Nicholas's company, was banned by the Consumer Protection Division from doing business in North Dakota due to the forged check allegation and complaints about business practices. A year later, now we're in 2020, when Nicholas's home was searched due to the allegations that he committed construction and check fraud, which is when the laptops were then recovered. When the warrant was served on September 15th, 2020, Nicholas was on the phone with North Dakota's Attorney General's office trying to set up a time to speak with the Consumer Division, according to the audio recording that was recorded by the police. Nicholas can be heard in the recording saying that he would get a ride with Senator Holmberg to Bismarck. The audio file was made public as a U.S. District Court exhibit, and on October 6th, 2020, Nicholas got a ride to his subpoena hearing from Ray Holmberg. 2 months after Nicholas's house was searched, he called in a theft at Ray's house on his behalf, according to the police report. 2 of Nicholas's employees admitted that they stole $8,800 from Ray's safe sometime between July 1st and October 27th, 2020, according to the police report. Nicholas and his Team Lawn crew were hired by Ray for a patio project in July 2020. Ray told police that he had been stockpiling cash since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, and the money added up to about $11,000. Honestly, I think having cash in a safe isn't something that's, I guess. Throughout the time I was speaking to Holmberg, Ray, he looked to DeRosier, Nicholas, several times for an answer, and Nicholas often answered for him. Officer Sean Thompson. Why did I say Thompson? It's spelled like Thompson, but it's really pronounced Thompson. Wrote in the report. When the police asked Ray why he hadn't reported the theft sooner, he said that he didn't want to get the cops involved because the 2 men admitted to stealing the money and agreed to pay him back, according to the report. In May 2021, Holmberg told police he was over everything, assumed he would never get the money back, and asked that charges not be pursued, according to the report. April of 2022 was the first time that Ray and Nicholas were connected by The Forum, which is a news source locally. In the original article, it was reported that 72 texts had been exchanged between Ray and Nicholas on August 23rd and 24th in 2021, while Nicholas was in jail facing the CP charges. Transcripts from a January 20 2022 detention hearing for Joshua revealed a 77-year-old man from Grand Forks asked Joshua in one of the texts to bring Joshua's 19 or 20-year-old boyfriend over to his house to give him a massage. At the time, Ray was 77. When the forum talked to Ray, he said that his texts with Joshua were related to a variety of things, including patio work that Joshua's company had done for him. He claimed that he did not know about the massage request. In November 2021, when federal agents searched Ray's house, they found and seized his state-issued laptop and iPad that hadn't been returned. Now, since Ray has been indicted in October, he has violated his release conditions by accessing the internet multiple times without permission, left his home, and frequented romantics, an adult novelty store, and it's also alleged that he has drank alcohol. Due to the statutory mandate of detention, respectively, the defendant is not viewed as a suitable candidate for self-surrender, U.S. Pretrial Services Officer Christine Argall wrote in the report. The U.S. Attorney's Office is expected to seek more than 3 years in prison, and that is just where this sits as of right now. He did have a plea hearing on, Thursday, but I'm recording this on Thursday, so today, but for you guys it'll be, yesterday, where he is going to enter his plea, which I will have in the description box down below what he ended up pleading. I just wanted to get this video made because I knew it was going to be a long one, but I still want you guys to know what's happening with it. But as always, if you guys want to know more, I will keep you updated. But that's it for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be back on Monday with another video. Bye guys.